Welcome back to all of our returning listeners, new listeners. This is such a powerful time of year. We have an incredible show for you today, and I'm really excited. We have one of our returning guests with us because could not be a better time for you to tune in, listen to what we're going to share today, and really connect more than ever before with the light. I know you've seen lots of truths come out. You're seeing more truths come out. You keep hearing me say, get your popcorn ready, but we have our popcorn, we're watching it, it's unfolding, and it's really important. And I'm so excited that we're going to spend this whole hour today with a dear friend, an incredible soul, an enlightened being that has just skyrocketed so many lives. And so you're in for the treat. And just before we go over to Lucas, please remember the book has launched. You can get it on Amazon, tracylclark.com. But the reason you want to is so you can join our free book club in January 19th. Sign up for that. And we're going to have 4 weeks together where we're going to talk about things that perhaps you're just shifting and moving through. And the other great thing about the book that I keep reminding people is it's imparted with a lot of energy, a lot of blessings. And so a lot of people have been saying as they read it, they can't believe how much shifting. And we've even had a few people told me they've read it 10 times. So, oh my, 10 times. I didn't read it 10 times, but I wrote it about 1 million times. So I guess I've read it about 1 million times. But make sure you just really, it's a great read, easy read. And I love for all of you to get on board with that and join me for 4 weeks. It's going to be a lot of fun. So Lucas, wow, I am so thrilled to have you back. I just can't begin to tell you how much my listeners have been like, bring Lucas back.
It's so fun. It's so fun to be with you. Thank you.
We do have a lot of fun. And you and I, we both found through our challenges and our journeys and into the light. And this time, there's so much happening with the holidays and, bringing back this beautiful light to another level where we can see this huge surge coming in. But it's also, it's a time right now that almost feels like people are telling me they feel like they got ripped off a little bit. Like we going through this tunnel to come out the other side. What have you noticed? Because your background, coming from the church, understanding the biblical, what's going on. You hear a lot of people right now, more than ever, like really talking about the biblical references. And even for me, I woke up in the middle of the night and I heard, and I can't say I've read the whole Bible. I heard I had to go read this piece. And I was like, that was so out of left field for me, but I'd love our listeners to hear your perspective about right now, because there's new listeners that are scared. They don't know what's happening. We have advanced souls that are also saying, well, and I hear this a lot. They're like, I know it, I believe it. And then, I'm getting doubt. I turned on the TV, and we want to come together with all this soul so strong right now. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. So we can just rise more people up and understand from your perspective what you see is happening there.
It is the primary thing taking place right now is the birth of human sovereignty.
Amen.
Yeah. And this word sovereignty has been exited from our vernacular, our nomenclature. This word sovereignty, like, wait, what? What is that word? What does it mean? Why have we not discussed sovereignty? It is because the whole system of the controlled opposition to our sovereignty, be it religion, media, education, athletics, the list goes on, pharmaceuticals, everything is designed to keep us from awakening to our own sovereignty.
Yeah.
And if the lights go out, if the electricity all of a sudden in a second went out, no human being is going to go listen to a priest, a professor, a pontificator. Everyone's then left with their own awareness, their own knowing, and what they did not know prior. And this is what's happening. The pseudo lights, the false light is going out to show forth the brilliance of the true light. When God said in Genesis, allow there to be light, let there be light, he was speaking to a power and an authority already existing on this earth. That's why he said, allow it. And that authority had to submit to the highest authority. And so he says, let there be light. And there was light. And God saw the light that it was good. And God divided the light from the darkness. We are living in the fulfillment of the division of darkness and light, so that those who have lived in darkness can finally see for the very first time, oh, light is over there, and I must walk out of this system. That's why the book of Revelation talks about come out of the great whore Babylon. Don't stay in it. Don't try to reform it. Don't try to make the matrix more beautiful. Don't try to change the matrix. Leave the matrix. As the matrix crumbles, we wake up to, I am a fully sovereign human being with a mind, body, spirit, soul that was made in the image of the one infinite creator. And I can receive the love and light of that infinite creator and emit that love and light wherever I go on this earth. And when I go, others are made free.
I absolutely, I love that. I said something the other day to somebody. I said, unfortunately, places like Canada, USA, Australia, New Zealand, stuff like that, they're really tied into these old matrices, like more than, even though people think they're free and first of all, no, we're really in the system. And they were like, well, no, I don't understand that. I said, let's look at the Queen. The Queen still signs off in Canada every bill that gets pushed. She's still the final authoritative figure. My head is like on this. I'm like, why? We still pay her billions of dollars a year. Why? We still like, so people say, oh, that's not true. It's like, no, these are the old draconian systems.
Yes.
You're right. We are sovereign beings. And when people forget this, and you've heard me say this, we are born sovereign naked beings. And then all the systems bring us in, birth certificates, driver's license. Yes. And boom, this is how this manipulation is ending now. Like you said, we are supposed to be free to make choice, free to love each other. And humans are meant to, most humans are good. Like most humans just want to love each other.
Yes. I think what's happening is the deep state. I mean, how brilliant. Let me actually, before I even get into the deep state, if anyone has heard of the Boston Tea Party and when the Patriots threw the tea into the harbor, who did they dress up as? They dressed up as Native Americans to project upon that it was the Native Americans doing this, not the Patriots doing this. Mm-hmm. The deep state has dressed up as loving light beings to do their acts so that no one would look at the deep state, but they would look at the deep state in their projection of love and light. And then what happens is people have lived with the effects of this false love and light. And we're confused on what is love. What is love? Love is not this emotion, and it's not a chemical experience. Love is the very essence of the universe that gives and creates. Love is creation. Love is building and giving and not suppressing.
Yeah, and understanding and compassion and
yes,
unity. And like we've said before, it's you can agree to disagree in such a loving manner and support each other still and uplift. And it's one thing I love what you said about the systems. And I'm like a broken record this, even in my community. And you've heard me say this. And I'm always like, the systems created this. And now the systems want to convince you they're going to fix it. Like right there. That's like, when you feel like if you've ever been in a bad relationship, or I was in a very toxic marriage and I was like, am I going crazy? Am I on the crazy train? Did I just say that? Like, you start to think you're crazy.
Yep.
And you realize, wait a minute, you're not crazy. It's all this manipulation. So one day happy, one day sad, one day mad, one day, and you're like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And that's how these systems have done it, right? Oh,
Yeah.
we've created the problem. Now let's give you the solution, which is not really a solution. So that whole paradigm of that matrix that is ripping off. And one of the things I like that you said, and maybe you have a biblical reference for this, is during these, people always say, what does this end times mean on a biblical front? And can you explain that? Because a lot of people come to me and say, I see it on the energetic level, but for people that are struggling, because there's a lot of the religious paradigms are also being ripped down, right? With these
Yep.
systems. When someone says on that front, we are in end times, can you explain that to people that don't understand what that is?
Yes. So the best way, let me tackle it from a couple different angles.
Sure.
It says in Psalms, a day with the Lord is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as a day. So the Bible references in Genesis chapter 1:1, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. In between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2, there's a massive time gap. Charles Spurgeon wrote about this, that what happened for the earth to be created, and all of a sudden it's without form and void, and darkness upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. The earth got flooded. And if you remove light, it instantly freezes. And when light comes back, what happens? It thaws.
Mm-hmm.
So you have, the earth is way older than this new earth, young earth narrative that has been projected by the system that is trying to keep everyone in control. So from Adam in Genesis chapter 2 all the way to now is 6,000 years. But Adam is not the same male, and Eve is not the same female, created in Genesis 1:26, where God says, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth. In Genesis 1:26, he says to replenish the earth. Well, you have to replenish something if something else was there prior. And it's the same word that God tells Noah. He says, replenish the earth to Noah right after a flood. So the Bible is so deep and wide and beautiful in the secrets that are within the text when we step away from the system telling us what it actually means and says.
Yeah.
However, in Genesis chapter 1, you have the 6 days of creation. You have day 1, 2, 3, 4. And then on day 5 is the first day that life was brought into a living creature. And then day 6, man was created. And day 7, God rests. So a day with the Lord is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as a day. So let's look at this. 1,000, day 1. 2,000, day 2. 3,000, day 3. 4,000, day 4. And what happens on day 5? Life comes into a living creature. That's when Jesus walked the earth. And the very first time Jesus speaks to a Gentile, a non-Jewish bloodlined person, was the Samaritan woman at the well. And it says that Jesus abode there, stayed with them. I like the old language, but abode there 2 days. Oh, so Yeshua, meaning love, and brings freedom. Yeshua HaMashiach, love, salvation, and freedom, stays with the world for 2 days. Okay, so day 5, 5,000 years. Day 6, 6,000 years. And we are coming to a literal end. These are not timelines that get played with. Yes, the deep state plays with time. Yes. They mess with calendars. They can mess with how we actually are perceiving, but energetically, you can't, energy doesn't lie. And there is a literal end to that 6th day. And what happens on the 7th day? God rests. Well, that's the millennial reign of Christ. The 1,000 years where no one dies. Now, that's a biblical narrative. But the Hopis, who had very similar prophecies of the Mayans, prophesied of the exact same time, the rainbow age, no one dies, the golden age, the age of Aquarius, all these narratives around the world. God has never spoken. And this is one thing that's very important for people to understand. God has never spoken to just one person that narrative. People around the world hear when God speaks, people hear. If it was that just one person heard God's voice, then that person, everyone on planet Earth should be listening to, but that would create a lack of sovereignty with individuals. But the deep state says, no, I am the pontiff. I am the pontificator. I am the origin of truth and knowledge. And if you don't know Greek and Hebrew, and if you don't study Latin, if you don't know these things, then you just can't know. That's not how God works.
Nope. Agreed.
So there is an end to this time, but what is the time, that the end of time, the age? First of all, people need to have no fear, because time is a created thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it is. For us humans here, it's what it is. It is.
Exactly. It's not, God is not subjected to time.
Yeah.
God is saying this time of this age is coming to an end, so that people, the species that I created in my own image, that when Jesus says you're the light of the world, he doesn't say, if you believe these things, you're the light of the world. He says you're the light of the world. You emanate light.
I've got to stop you, and so don't mean to interrupt you, but that is an extremely important thing what you just said there. And everyone needs to listen to this. Okay, can you repeat that again? I want you to say it again.
Jesus said, you are the light of the world. And he did say, there was no qualification. He didn't say if you believe these, if you adhere to these dictates and this dogma. No, you already are.
And it is, and that's why, when we've had these great conversations, because that the light, and everything is already within us. We're just, waking up some more. And even the people that are, we would, maybe people say, oh, they're the dark or the draconian, they still have light in them. It's just, I say, it's like they have 50 piles of laundry on top of them, that it just got compromised and they don't even know anymore.
Yes.
And so we do need to send them that space. And like you said, like, we are the light. And that's what I love so much about what you just said too, and why there's no fear. Because I know for people like you and me and many other souls, we get so excited about what's happening right now.
Yes.
This literally has been the best year ever.
Yes.
And I'm so excited. And I go to places and people are like, why are you so happy? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, you don't see this beauty. So you have to wake them up a bit. But when you look at that and you understand how this is going into the seventh day, this is just the old systems leaving. Like, it has been prophesized for a long time. You've seen it in the energetic world where I guess they want to call them cogs or intuitives or whatever. They all see the same time period, no matter where you look, at the end of the old for sovereignty. So I'd love for you, and I talk about this a lot, you hear me, but for people listening, when they're like, I always say, sovereignty, you're free to love, you're free to be who you are. What would you like to add to that people, because this is a big energetic block, because there's been so much programming in people about subtle manipulation of control, right? Through the systems, through schools, like, let's look at schools alone. They don't teach them anything. They just teach them how to be a drone. So all of this programming, I always see it, and I'd love your take on this, that with people, especially when they're waking up, it's that sovereignty has been so buried. It's been buried so much with the programming. So people don't even know what sovereignty means anymore.
Yeah. It took me a long time to wake up, and it's only been in the healing journey of the past 4.5 years that I've gone through that I've even stood what sovereignty is. And everyone listening, my dear brothers and sisters, there is no right or wrong that I will ever say you need to do this or that, or what I would ask of you is get clear in your own mind when you are about to speak an idea. Do you have someone else's voice in your head? Amen. Is it a parent, a spouse, a friend, a pastor, a religion, a narrative, whatever it is? If there is some other voice than your own clear directive, that is an indication of a lack of sovereignty.
Yeah.
And how we become sovereign beings is to go within and to unlock the doors that we're told not to open, to bring forth into the light those dark, shameful, dirty secrets that someone else said don't tell anyone. If
Yeah.
you tell, if you actually become you and utter forth the truth for you, I will do, or something will happen. And at a very young age, we are taught that sovereignty is a dangerous thing. But who makes it dangerous? Us as the beings that seek sovereignty? No, those that subvert sovereignty and impose their will upon another. So,
Yeah, that's fitting for the world right now, isn't it?
isn't it? Totally.
How many authoritative figures are imposing their will on people, and how much it is. It's a lot of people say, oh, I just want to talk about that positive space. But guys, we also have to really shift a lot of this out of you so you don't
Yes.
have the fear, and understand where this programming has come from, like what you're saying, because it's true. It's even in, we get pushback sometimes in our community because I say things the way I say it, but I'm always like, that's the way I say it, but you change it, you move it your way. And people will say to me, well, and there's a lot of old energy modalities that have to go away. They're not whatever. And they're like, but I need a symbol or I need a sign. When I move energy, I burp and I use my hands. That's the way I
Yeah.
do it. But somebody
Yeah.
else may not do it that way, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But they're like, I need to draw a symbol. And I'm like, no, you don't. Or I
Mm.
need to, because they're like struggling with it because they're going back to the programming, like you
Yes.
said, of being told. And I said, energy has no limits. Energy has no boundaries. God has no limits. God has no boundaries.
Yep.
So you got to keep talking to God your way. And
Yes.
then people will say, well, no, that's not. And you can see where they still want the programming,
Yes.
thinking that's taking them to freedom and sovereignty.
Right. That's right. I mean, it's funny that people will argue about they this is what I will say is humility. There is no unity without humility.
Yeah, it's true.
To be humble enough to listen, agreement, who cares if we agree? It's about, can we listen to one another and seek to understand why someone thinks the way they do? That's beautiful. That's humanity. That's the rainbow. We don't look up in the sky and say, oh, how beautiful is the red today? We look at the rainbow and be like, look at that incredible arcing of all colors in unison, one not outdoing the other, but being in flow with each other.
Mother Nature. Mother Nature is in
Exactly.
harmony, but every animal knows what it's to do and who it's to
Yes.
eat, and they
Yes.
celebrate each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
And humans have the what I use is the Borg mindset, which is harvesting the organic nature of humanity,
Wow.
which houses the divine nature of humanity. The organic houses the divinity. But the technology and digital side takes the organic, strips away the divinity, and then harvests the organic to create a greater being, but a being that no one is sovereign in.
Yeah.
And so people are arguing about sides right now and belief structures, and instead of going in and saying, well, why do I believe this? Who taught me this for the very first time? Where did I read
Over
this?
politics, like Storyville. Why do people argue over politics? You don't even want to be in that matrix anymore. We want that matrix to go away.
That's right. I said here's a fascinating thing about politics. They teach us, they being the system tells us that there's a spectrum, and the spectrum is left and right. But that's not the spectrum. That's a false narrative. And this is how crafty the deep state and system is. They say left liberal, right conservative, right Nazi, left socialism, and that's what they tell us. And that is absolutely an abomination of truth. The truth of the spectrum is there is government and there is self-governance. And that is the spectrum. And the false narrative is they say there's government on one side and there's anarchy on the other. But that is to say that human sovereignty will only act out in abuse to another. And that is not the case. When we walk in self-governance and heal ourselves and do the inner work, and we all can stand for each other to do the inner work, big government is not necessary. Statism, whether they brand it with this brand or that brand, is statism.
Yeah.
Individualism is saying thank you, but no thank you.
Well, that is the new, right? Like I
Yeah.
always see it energetically that these big institutions are going to start to shrink over time. You can see they're going to shrink,
Yeah.
which also is why we're seeing the birth of, and I talk a lot about this too, of cryptocurrency outside of the government. And we're seeing it because it's for the people. It's more of taking back your sovereignty. And they're trying really hard to figure out how they get a hold of it and how they do it and how they can beat everyone, but it's already trains left. And I love this because these are the seeds that were planted to do something different for the empowerment of humanity. And literally, people don't even realize this if they understand even the creation of, we'll just go to Bitcoin. People mostly don't know that. It was someone said enough is enough after the 2008 crash. This is what happened. They can call them whatever you want. I know people have their issues, don't care. But if you read that paper and understand, it's like, it's time for the people. It's time to bring something. Now, 2008, that, so it was planted long before that, but the seed really started to grow in 2008. So you think about that of saying, let's create something that's freedom for the people where they're not being controlled. Their money's not being controlled. So that's 12 going into 13 years. And I really think that for people to understand that a lot of the systems that are crumbling right now, they've been dismantling and being dismantled. I get chills for 25, 30, 40 years still. It's just now like all of those seeds that people planted are now growing into these trees of like, here we are, let's get going.
Yes, for the harvest. And the harvest will be
Huge.
It'll be glorious. It will be. And what I was talking to someone earlier today, and they're saying, talking about all these people that there's no scientific evidence to back up masks, and there's no scientific evidence to back up these things. And I know that's a sensitive thing, but the reality is that people are afraid, and the fear cannot be satiated by doing these acts. This fear can only be satiated by going within and looking at, why are we afraid to die? We're afraid to die because we don't know the source of love. And if we knew the source of love, there would be no hesitation of whether I live as Christ or die as gain, as Paul wrote, and literally have no separate. I'm not separated from love right now, and I will not be separated from love the minute I slip out of this physical being. I am in the love and light of the one infinite creator, and I am not afraid to live, nor am I afraid to die.
Yeah, that is, you know what? I was terrified to die when I was younger, even though I kept trying to die, right? Like I was trying to, but I still had this fear because I had so much fear in my body. And it wasn't really until my last near-death experience with that such a beauty, like beauty. And then I was like, okay, I'm not going back. You know, you get sent back. But that whole fear went away because having that, and I actually needed that at that time because I think God did that because he knew I was going to keep, you know, trying to die. But it was like, you really need to see this because I didn't know what love was. I just knew fear. And one of the things I'd really like your take on, I'm going to kind of move this a little bit. A lot of people ask me, how do these kind of, whether you call them draconian energy, Lucifer energy, dark energy, whatever you call them, whatever your term is, how do they get in the body? And I always say it's literally, you invite them through fear. You invite them through doing acts that you know your sovereign being is against. I say it's like the vampire at the door, you know, in the movies, and it can't come in unless you invite it in.
Yeah.
And that's a lot right now of what I see that people are also letting out of their body is looking at what they invited in that they needs to come out, which is all through fear and trauma. And this is where these systems have hit fear and trauma. What from what you've read, what's your perception on that?
Well, absolutely. Fear is the invitation for these energies to live in the body. However, it's not awareness of fear now, think of what this has been going on for thousands and thousands of years.
20,000.
Parents striking children in the name of right and wrong, in the name of love. And think of as a child,
Yeah.
what happens with that? Where does the consciousness of the child go? It bifurcates and separates for a second during that strike because it creates trauma. So it strikes, the strike happens, the consciousness moves out a little bit and then comes back in. And the more aggressive
Mhm.
the physical acts to the
Yeah.
child, the more space gets created for these energy. It's not that the energies dwell in the child then, it's that the child becomes conditioned to not fully be in their body as an adult. So that fear is just this natural thing because we've been conditioned. And this narrative of the word spank, I just want to go on this for a second because I think this is incredibly important. This is around the earth. This is a human problem. The word spank, the epitomology of the word spank was to get a horse to run faster. They struck a horse, they spanked the horse, and the horse moved faster. And these people changed the word hit to spank to soften it. It's like pedophile versus no, you rape children.
Mhm.
Stop giving me these pseudo fake psychological words that whitewash the heinousness of your act. And
Yeah.
then the Bible, they use the Bible as to back it up. And I want to say, I'm answering this question, but it's very important that people understand this. The word spare does not mean to withhold. The word spare means extra, spare parts, spare time, spare change, spare tire. This means extra. But all of a sudden, the abusers in the system said, no, spare the rod, spoil the child, which
Oh,
means if I withhold the
yeah.
rod, you will be spoiled. And I'm saying no, actually, you using the rod in a way that it was never intended to, you're right, does spoil the child. But what does it spoil of the child? It spoils a child's view of unconditional love, of sovereignty, of safety, of being held, of being listened to, of being cared for in a way that is unconditional and truly godly. These godlike imposters stepped into a place and ruined our view of the unconditional and divine love of the Most High God. So then we become adults and we're these authoritarian figures say in politics, religion, media, they threaten us and we go back to that. It's not safe. If I don't do what they say, I'm going to get hurt. And they clench down in the gut and everyone's having gut issues and gut problems and hunkered down and everyone's sick and afraid. And it's time that we go back to those moments and turn around in our minds and say, don't touch me.
Yeah. No more.
No more.
Yeah.
Your foundational doctrine that you're using is wrong. It's a lie. I'm standing in the truth. You shall not touch me, come near me, scare me, or influence me any longer.
Yeah.
I, in the authority of the love and light of the one infinite creator, am saying to you right now, leave. Leave my body, leave my mind, leave my heart, leave my soul, leave my house, leave
Thank you, God.
and return no more.
Yeah.
We have to, we get to go back and heal our child first before we ever worry about the children outside in the world and what's happening to them. We have to rescue our own child and say, wow, you're brilliantly beautiful and pure and you've never been tainted and you've never been. I have protected you, my ego has protected you, the armor has protected you, and now I'm inviting you back in to live back fully in me, that I don't have to leave anymore. I don't have to be afraid of fear anymore, because fear is the thinnest sheath. It is such a thin veil, but it's opaque. So it doesn't allow any light through. You can't see it. But once you pierce, it's on the other side, it's brilliant light. It's brilliant freedom. It's brilliant, exhilarating, cell activating life.
Yeah, it's literally it's freedom and on the other side. And I think that that's really important that people listening and watching understand that that is really what we're breaking out of. I always say there's fear, there's love. That's it. Everything else is just a hodgepodge of whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
opposite of love, fear, opposite fear, love. And when those old systems, we know personally when we go through them, and we call them dark nights of the soul or traumatic or whatever people want to term them, when we go through them, I really think people need to understand the planet as a whole, because we're all connected, right? Every one of us are
Yes.
experiencing this together. And it's like I always say, you can see the way the lights are all connecting greater and greater around the world. You look at people standing up saying no more, and their energy is moving all over the world. And it's so beautiful because you really are starting to see, and this is a good thing, you start to see everything pull apart clearer than ever before. So you see that authoritative space coming down, and you see that the fear is just, it's purging off the planet. And what you said this well too is that we have 25,000 plus years of this in the soil, that's been
Yes.
like in the soil in different countries and nations, that they're, being free all over and all over the world. And that's also like Mother Earth is purging it. So
Yes.
we get to see, it's kind of like where people had blinders on through fear and fear of not following. I've seen a lot of people, unfortunately, will leave the planet if they choose to put
Hmm.
certain things still in their bodies and stuff like that. And that's okay. That's their choice. That's they're kind of, whatever their place is to wake up to bring more sovereignty.
Yeah.
But I love how it's purging out of the planet. And I love how if people can start to understand that we are, I don't like how they've manipulated this whole thing of, oh, we're in this together. Yeah, we're in it together, but not your way. Like, I'm not in
Yeah.
that with you. I'm not in that with you. So I'll
That's
remove
right.
that. I'm not in that with you at all. I'm over
Yeah.
here with my beautiful soul light beings that are
Yes.
saying it's time for us to go back to things that work for all of humanity.
Yes.
And I think people forget that it's, yes, we are going through our stuff because we're with our stuff every day,
Yeah.
but the planet is purging all
Yes.
of the wars, all of the things. Like, we're not meant to go to war and have guns and fight. That's not, that is all old, and it's
Yeah.
purging all of that bloodshed as well off the planet.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
coming out. You can see she's like, gotta go. I don't want this energy. Because when we step on those places, we pick that energy up too. So she's
Yeah.
purging it as well.
That's right.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, even Abel's blood cried out from the ground to God. And God asked Cain, "What is this that you have done? For your brother's blood crieth out to me from the ground." That because the life force is in the blood. That's why they take blood of others and do, adrenochrome and all
Yeah.
these things. But
Yeah.
that are the life force is in the blood. The earth has held so much life force of victims and death and all these things, and it's releasing life back to the source of the one infinite creator. God is receiving all this life. That's why there will be no death in the millennial reign of Christ, quote unquote, using that Christian narrative. There's
Yeah.
going to be no death for 1,000 years. People are going to live, and then we'll see that, these bodies that lived early in Genesis were living 970 years, 1,000 years. Like, that's no big deal. Yeah, because everything that was introduced into the system to take mankind down is being removed, and we will
Yeah.
blossom back to the beings and bodies that we actually were intended to have.
Yeah, the heavy metals that they put in, and the
Yes.
fluoride, and the chemtrails, all these things. People, oh, I don't know about that. Well, yeah, well, they don't want you, but it has affected, the food and the manipulation of the food,
Yes.
and exactly, I see that when you remove all of that out, exactly, you see that the bodies are natural, because everybody forgets, and I know this as being in body regen, where God was with the body. Every part of your body is programmed from God to restore naturally every year. And then people say, well, then why is my liver damaged? Well, it's all the garbage that you put in it. But when it's clean food, when it's clean air, when it's clean water, when it's clean, the system is all orchestrated. Our bodies are so beautiful. Like God made every part of our being, man
Yes.
and woman, how we come down. It's a reason when we take off like our little skin suits, we all look the same in there
Yes.
because there's a way it works, this orchestra. And what you're right, when you pull that away and people say, well, how could someone live so long? I'm like, well, look at the monks that like live forever and
Yes.
they don't have any of this in their environment.
That's right. That's right.
So it gets to go back to longevity. It gets to go back to clarity of mind because all those metals that start to like make you not clear and make you disconnected. And
Right.
the thyroid, look at all the people that have thyroid issues from the metal, which is connected to disconnecting you from the pure God energy, from pure God source love. That's
Mm,
why the thyroid's been targeted so much.
yes.
And
Yes.
so now it's come back on stream through good things. And I love that you said that because it's so important. And the other thing I saw purging out of the earth, and I like that you said this too with the bloodshed and with Abel, was that you can see there's a lot of healing. I'll get chills as the blood and
Mhm.
stuff is being cleaned off where these wars, where like if I don't know you, so let's say, okay, I'm in Canada, you're in the US, and all of a sudden our draconian government say, well, for me to sit in power, I'd like to have authority over Canada. So I'm going to send all you Americans in to free them and go kill all those people you don't know. So if you and I come to contact on the battlefield, it's all that programming, right? Because we're looking at each other going, I'm just ordered to kill you. I'm a drone, but
Right.
we could be best friends over here, right?
Right.
And that energy, people don't realize, is also being repaired. And there's a lot of forgiveness happening
Mhm.
where we've been in battle with each other, being forced by
Yes.
these dark energies and the manipulation that's happening and the deep state stuff. But now we're kings and queens, one of power. So there's a lot of forgiveness because people don't realize that and I've had it happen to me where people that actually kill you in other lifetimes or go to war, they end up following you around energetically, saying, "I'm really sorry. I'm
Mm,
really sorry. Like that was that lifetime. I didn't realize what was happening." And so that is an actual healing for the everybody on the planet now that
yeah.
has any form of interference energy from any past life energy that is just a frequency that just showed up in this time period. Because, like you said, there is no time, so they're all running at the same time.
Right. I think that's really that is such a beautiful um I just had this vision that the earth, think of every human on the planet very soon and very, very, very soon will rejoice at once.
Oh, I agree. Amen. Yeah.
Yeah, like the earth is going to rejoice. The year of Jubilee, which we're entering in this time of celebration and if for those that come from a Bible perspective, remember that what Joseph's brothers intended for evil for Joseph, God turned it around for good. And that's what's happening right now, that the deep state intended all these things to be evil. The deep state created the National Security Agency in the United States, which allowed the federal government to track every digital phone call, text, browsing, everything.
Yeah.
But God turned that around for good because the Patriots had access to that and used the same information that they used to intend for bad, turned it for good. And they have tracked every bad person on the planet. And the irony is this about bad and good and bad and right and wrong and hell and sin and death. And what the deep state tells the average person, you're a bad person. If you swear, if you do this, if you're a bad person, as if that is the spectrum of bad. And we have no concept of what real wickedness is. And people have been in self beat up for so long of, oh, I did this, I messed up, I'm a bad person, or I'm an idiot, all these things. I'm like, no, you're actually beautiful beyond beautiful. You have no concept of the beauty who you truly are and the true wickedness on the earth, the true wicked creatures with these reptilian energies and these evil, subversive, plotting secret society humans that think that they are greater than you.
Yeah.
The acts that they do in secret, the things that they do in the darkness are beyond what a normal human mind can even fathom. And yet the normal human mind thinks they're bad if they swear, or they're bad if they did something quote unquote wrong. And that is all the same system keeping us in slavery. Exactly. And we're waking up like, no, I'm a really good person. And yeah, I've been hurt and I hurt others, or I might have made bad decisions, but this is all learning the brilliance and beauty of being a human. We're not wicked. How about that? We're beautiful. We're sovereign. We're light. We're love. We are loved. And there is nothing that can separate us from the love of God. Nothing, not a doctrine, not a devil, not a deceiver. Nothing can separate us from the love of God, because God cannot not love us.
Yeah, I like to remind people of that, and I'm so glad you brought it up, that they can try all they want to, really make you feel depressed or anxious or whatever, fear, whatever. But the light's so in you, and the more you bring the light out within you,
Yes.
realize. I used to. I want to use this analogy for people. Is I used to say, I don't want to be alone. I'm tired of being alone. Like, I felt so lonely my whole life because I didn't have that connection. And I wasn't brought up with any sort of real connection. Had bits of it and then kind of walked away. And when I actually started to wake up, and my journey's been over almost 18 years now. Yeah, but we'll just pretend I'm 30. Okay. I've graduated from 29 to 30. But I'll live for 1,000 years, so we're good. Um, but it was when I realized I was just, when I would say that, I realized I was lonely because I had so much of, like, you've gone through this too, the pain and the suffering, that I didn't realize that I wasn't alone. And when I started to activate the light and I started to get rid of my own laundry that was on top, I never, probably about 5 years into my journey, 6 years into my journey, I never felt alone again. And I learned to love my alone time because I realized I was never alone. Of course, I see, feel, and hear. So I do see when there's a spirit coming through. So I'm like, really, I kind of was like, not that kind of lonely. But, when spirit guides come through, or in God, and that huge connection that we have. And I think right now it's so important during the holidays that people, as you're seeing the truths come out, to embrace them, to celebrate it's the new, and that to remind yourself, if you're feeling lonely, you're not alone. We just got to turn the light up a little bit more.
That's
Like,
right. That's
none of
right.
us are alone.
Where we are actually in the atmosphere, the very essence of our breath is the breath of God. We are never alone, and we cannot be separated.
No, it's an illusion.
It's an illusion. It's a thinly, that's again, fear and all the things of fear that come from fear are the thinnest. It's the thinnest veil there is, but it allows no light in. So once we pierce that and we see, whoa, there's so much good, there's so much beauty there. Humanity is beautiful. Humanity is so beautiful. And think of people that, I use the masks as, people are so, yes, they're fear, but they're also beautiful people. They want to help. We want to help each other. We want to stand for each other. And we're just all waking up to what that truly means. What does that really look like? Why is there a flu every year? What actually is that? Why does
It's
why all
miraculous
these?
now, though.
It's miraculously gone. Then flu is 97% down in the United States right now, but we have this virus. Well, because it's a virus that gets, I mean, once we wake up to, oh, there's an enemy, and the enemy is not us human beings that are waking up. There's a darker force, and that's all being removed. But also to give everyone, during this time, during the holidays, during Christmas, doesn't matter the power or intention of darkness. Darkness exists to show us what light is. And we want it. So we are thankful for darkness. We're thankful for pain, because without pain, I wouldn't know what healing was. And that's why Romans 8 verse 8:28 says, and we know all things work together for good to them who love God. And you can replace the word God with love or light. Those who love, and love light. All things work together for good to those who love God, who are called according to his purpose, which is to love one another. That's his purpose, that you love one another. So, and we know all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are the called according to his purpose. So when we love and love light, because God is love and God is light, and we live according to the purpose of loving one another as we are the light of the world, then we can say all these things are working together for good, because yeah, darkness exists so that I can see light. Pain exists so I can know healing. All these opposites during this time, we rejoice for it all. We give thanks for it all. And that is where we can come and say, thank you, God. Thank you.
I'm happy you said that. I know we're getting to the top of the hour. This is a time exactly to really, people like to, they believe more during the holiday season. And if I can remind our listeners that this is a time that if you need to, you just press in a little bit more to that belief and that know and that trust that God has you and we all have each other rising. So I know as we're at the top of the hour, what during this holiday season, what would you like to leave with the listeners to, whether it's ponder, or what would be your message as we're preparing for 2021, closing 2020? I don't, I know what I see in 2021, but what do you see? What do you want to leave with people as they go about their holiday time together and prepare for this new year?
That everything is going to be okay. Everything is going to be okay. And perhaps with, the nativity scene gets so projected during this time, perhaps look at each one of those characters and see how they represent you and how you are living these roles out. How are you living out the Mary, the mother who gives? How are you living out the father who didn't have enough means to get a good enough dwelling? How are you embodying this light of the world, that the shepherds and everyone comes and looks at this child, because that child is in you. You are a child as well. Have you sought and honored the child in you when you were born and gotten loved like you deserve to be loved? Look at the magi that come and give these precious gifts. That magi is plural for mega, by the way. And this is the time that the magi, those that study the stars, those that see the times and the seasons, come and say, I am giving these precious gifts of incense, frankincense, and myrrh to bring forth a new fragrance, a new environment, a new beingness. And so look at the nativity of all those characters and see yourself in all those characters.
I love it. That is a great place to be. So, can you share with everyone too, please, Lucas? I, I, I love how we've come together to be able to just share. There's so much more we have to do together. Where can people find you though, too?
Thank you. You can find me on my website, it's lucasmack.com, or on Instagram. I post a lot of content there, and my handle is Lucas James Mack. And yeah, thank you. I love you. This is so fun. I could talk to you forever.
I know we could go on. Like, time to go for Olivia. Time to go. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I know we will be doing many more things together, you and I. I just love how Spirit put us together, and I think that for anybody listening, please, this holiday season, take what Lucas said. I got chills. It's all going to be okay. You're going to see the truth. You are all right. Lucas's community, my community, we all come together. We're here to help you. Whatever you require, you got to reach out. You got to ask, but don't be consumed by the fear. Stay in the light. Trust, know, believe, because God has some pretty amazing things that are going to unfold. So don't forget, get your book, get the book club in, I think it's January 19th, tracylclark.com, so we can help you have more fun, because 2021 is going to be an incredible year, and it will not have very much resemblance of what we're seeing right now. So have an incredible week, everyone. Thank you again, Lucas. So much love to you and your family and everybody here listening, watching. We will see you next week, same time, same place.
Thank you for listening to the Tracy L. Clark Show with me, Tracy L., where I teach you how to connect to the God consciousness so you can unlock your superpowers and connect at light speed and live your extraordinary life. Tune in every Tuesday at 8 a.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio, where together we will unlock the secrets of your body and your life. As the founder of the Body Regeneration Academy, I, Tracy L., will provide you with the insight and simple tools you can apply right now in your life to move you forward and leave the past in the dust. To join the Body Regeneration TLC Online Academy, make sure you check me out at tracylclark.com.